Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and we have an amazingly busy show in store for you this morning. We are going to hear from our friends from Steuben Senior Services Fund about their upcoming bubbly and brunch festivities. We're also going to read your comment here in just a moment. And then some breaking stories. There are obviously some updates on the Epstein scenario, where Donald Trump has ordered certain documents to be released, but also threatening to sue the Wall Street Journal as they are reporting on a birthday card. There was a book put together for Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, and Donald Trump's I guess they're calling it a body photo that he signed in there, or not photo, drawing that he signed in there. He is threatening to sue. We'll talk about that coming up. Get your opinions on that and much more. And the end of funding for NPR, PBS. So we'll bring to you the biased media and what they had to say about it. Practically the end of Big Bird. But first, let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments, shall we? This came in late yesterday. Campaign slogan for any Democrat running in this state: Make New York California. That is something I've been saying for a long time, even back in the radio days, that if California comes up with a very bad piece of legislation, we normally like to copy it as soon as possible, and vice versa. It's very much a give and take on that, by the way. That viewer also brought to our attention NYSEG asking for another rate hike. Can't remember if we brought this up at the time on the program, because I know we've discussed so much about NYSEG, and not everybody, but so many people have complained about their bill, and rightfully so. Well, NYSEG is requesting a 33.5% increase in natural gas delivery rates, yes, 33.5%, and a 23.7% increase in electric rates. So thank you for bringing that to our attention and reminding us of what is in store. And again, you can blame NYSEG if you want, but you've got to look at Governor Hochul's green energy policies, because this has a lot to do with why your bill is so expensive. Okay, yesterday, the House Republicans, late last night, approved that clawback package, what they're calling the Doge cuts. It will cut $9 billion in previously approved federal outlays for foreign aid, NPR, and PBS. The so-called rescission bill passed 216 to 213. With GOP Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania and Mike Turner of Ohio joining all present Democrats in voting no. Isn't it going to be interesting? Do you think we'll see a day where one of Trump's pieces of legislation actually get a Democrat vote? Just one. I'm being serious. If you look at even the big, beautiful bill, Tom Suozzi saying, oh, yeah, I supported 75% of it, but I still had to vote no. And the reason being, of course, because the Democrat caucus told him he had to vote no. The Democrats rally around each other perfectly, where Republicans, as we've seen time and again, not so, what's the word I want to say, not so consistent in supporting each other. The House faced a Friday deadline to pass the measure. The Senate passed the bill early Thursday. As we know, we brought that to you throughout the week, really, and what was happening with that. So this will go to Trump's desk. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who could have exercised his power under the rules of lower chamber to speak for as long as he could in opposition of the measure, opted to give only a 15-minute speech yesterday. I wonder if they're starting to realize that the whole speech and the kind of the bloviating isn't as effective as they think it is, isn't as heroic as Cory Booker thinks it is. Cory Booker releasing a book called Stand that will, highlight his time giving that 25-hour and 5-minute speech on the Senate floor, not a filibuster really, because at the end of the day there was nothing accomplished by it. But I'll continue because I don't want to go into that, because the magic minute that Hakeem Jeffries used last time broke some record too. But even CNN admitting that the House passes Trump's $9 billion DOGE cuts package and another legislative win for the president. Congress passed the package, which is part of Trump's cost-cutting Department of Government Efficiency efforts under an obscure presidential budget law used to circumvent the Senate filibuster. The measure will now head to the president to be signed into law. Trump is the first president in roughly 30 years to successfully use the maneuver in a show of deference to the White House from the legislative branch, which is specifically given the power of the purse in the U.S. Constitution. Now, of course, the talks have begun about what this means for NPR and PBS. As any Republican could tell you, there has been calls to cut that funding for years upon years, maybe even a decade, more than a decade, actually, a couple decades, because of the inherent bias at PBS and NPR, and the fact that if you want to fund it, paid for by viewers like you, or however they say it, you're more than welcome to. You'll probably even get a free tote bag out of it. But someone who does not believe in the bias that's being pushed there should not have to be forced to pay through their tax dollars. And that has been the argument for quite some time. But in the past, they brought Big Bird to Congress. They bring up all the worst, and we have a couple examples of that, of what will happen. After the House passed the DOGE cuts, Trump, Johnson, and congressional Republicans were quick to tout the move, calling it, Trump saying on Truth Social, "This is big." The speaker said he was delighted to move the DOGE cuts package to the president's desk. "We're going to downsize the scope of government. Government is too large. It does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. We believe in limited government that's accountable and efficient and effective for the people. And we're going to continue to demonstrate that through our actions here on the floor." But Johnson would not commit to bringing the non-binding Epstein resolution to the floor, saying, "We will see how that all develops. We're in line with the White House. There's no daylight between us." Representative Eric Burlison of Missouri said, "It's disappointing that we're, $37 trillion in debt. This to me was low-hanging fruit. We saw how DOGE exposed a lot of misuse of funds. It's disappointing that the Senate took it out. It's better than nothing, so I took that at least we were able to move some spending reductions." Now, Trump's victory over PBS and NPR bias, quote, "will be devastating for rural areas," according to various station leaders. I do think one of the things they would be better off, NPR and PBS, would be better off when there are reports of this cut in funding. Maybe make your studios, make your office buildings look a little disheveled and not state of the art. Public television stations will be forced to make hard decisions in the weeks and months ahead, said PBS CEO Paula Kerger. Radio and TV stations may need to lay off staffers and cut back on programming. Popular shows like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood may reach fewer people. Big Bird of Sesame Street fame isn't going away, but the financial system that supported him for decades is being stripped away. Now, this is only something like 1% of their budget, but anyway. NPR said in a statement, "Tonight, our network's service to the nation suffered a tremendous setback. Together, and with support from listeners and readers and communities around the nation, we will work to rebuild." Now, keep in mind, because of this, they will show you the sob stories. They will find that one station that wasn't making it anyway and highlight how they were forced to close, or there was some emergency alert they weren't able to make. It's all very predictable. The precise effects are hard to predict because other funders may still fill in some of the gaps, the actual viewing and listening public. Again, I know I had a viewer comment on this program, have I ever received government money for this show? No. And that's the point. If you don't like the show, you change the channel, right? And if you do like the show, you watch, you support our amazing sponsors, and it keeps it on the air. PBS and NPR's system is to accept donations, for various programming, and they do depend a little bit on the government money, but that you can't have years of bias and not expect that to come back and haunt you. How David Bazell, president of the Media Research Center, which has campaigned against the federal support of PBS and NPR for decades, celebrated the historic rollback, saying PBS and NPR were chartered to provide objective journalism. Instead, we got drag shows for kids, gushing coverage of Democrats, and silence or smears for conservatives. So they're suggesting that as some of the smaller stations, local shows could be cut, maybe an afternoon show or broadcast. I can't think of any around here that do this, but broadcasts of local sports. So CNN, before we take a break and move on from, let's take a break. I don't want to run too late because we do have an interview coming up here in just a little bit. But there's two things about this NPR that we're going to tie into a look at the mainstream media in general. We are going to move on to Epstein. We've got a lot to cover this morning, I understand. So I don't want to spend too much time on PBS and NPR. But bear with me. It all ties in together. Well, all right, we'll be right back. But frankly speaking, just getting started. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. So what will happen to PBS and NPR stations once they lose federal funding, asks Brian Stetler from CNN. Well, it says, will it affect stations when those stations can just raise more money? Yes and no. Bigger stations in metro areas will have an easier time making up the deficits than smaller stations. Generally speaking, smaller stations, particularly those in hard-to-reach area, are more reliant on federal funding. In some cases, the taxpayer dollars are directly keeping the lights on and broadcast antennas functioning. Without federal funding, many local public radio and television stations will be forced to shut down, said the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All right, enough on that. Now, on CNN News Central, NPR's CEO, Catherine Mayer, responded to the accusations that NPR is biased by saying that the network has worked to address that criticism, and they'll, quote, keep doing that work in order to both understand those criticisms, but also to ensure that we remain the nonpartisan organization that we are today. That is extremely laughable. There is a reason why it is a stereotype that hippies listen to NPR, that the left listens to NPR. So she doesn't even understand the criticism that they're biased. Remember, there was that, I don't know if you call it whistleblower, but the person that worked in behind the scenes saying how there are no conservatives, everything is written with a liberal bias. So she doesn't even understand the criticism of people saying that NPR is biased. Quote, when it comes to the accusation of bias, I would start as I always start by saying, which is we, of course, are a nonpartisan organization, and we want to serve and are required to serve the entirety of the American public. We have been working over the course of the past year under my leadership to ensure that we are listening to that criticism and ensuring we're hearing from audiences who feel as though perhaps our reporting does not serve them or reflect their voices in the way they'd like to hear today. We've invested in enhancements to our editorial process, increasing capacity for local reporters and state-based reporters, regional reporters to be able to make sure we're lifting up and hearing voices from across the nation. It's our obligation to serve the whole country. It's a commitment that we have. And certainly we are going to keep doing that work in order to both understand those criticisms, but also to ensure that we remain the nonpartisan organization that we are today. Speaking of the media, let's stick with this topic for just a moment. CBS has canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. I always found Stephen Colbert kind of fascinating, his program, because to me, it was popular with people that just wanted, at the end of the night, tune in to somebody that confirmed their worldview, right? That they could tune in and clap like seals, laugh when the audience on TV laughs. And it was the kind of the stereotypical jokes about Trump being orange and those type of things. But CBS has called it a financial decision, a purely financial decision. We consider Stephen Colbert irreplaceable and will retire the Late Show franchise in May of 2026. So he's still got a year, right? Almost a year. We are proud that Steuben called CBS home. He and the broadcast will be remembered in the pantheon of great and graced late-night television. This is purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. It is not related in any way to the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. Colbert addressed the situation during the taping of the show yesterday. He said he was appreciative to the network for giving him a platform. As the audience booed, he said, "Yeah, I feel your feelings. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away. I do want to say that the folks at CBS have been great partners. I'm so grateful to the Tiffany Network for giving me this chair and this beautiful theater to call home. And of course, I'm grateful to you, the audience, who have joined us. And I'm extraordinarily, deeply grateful to the 200 people who work here. We get to do this show for each other every day, all day. It's a fantastic job. I wish someone else was getting it." So, Jimmy Kimmel supporting his friend, Stephen Colbert, saying, "Blank you and your Sheldons, CBS," referencing the Big Bang Theory spinoff, Young Sheldon. Well, there you are. I don't know what that accomplished. Now, Adam Schiff, who's been in the news frequently, Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren says the public deserves to know whether CBS's decision to cancel The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was politically motivated. Now, again, I don't know what anybody would stand to gain to lose Stephen Colbert. I mean, listen, he had an audience would never vote Trump that watched faithfully. Losing him doesn't move the needle one way or the other. So to think it's politically motivated is just a political show from Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren. Adam Schiff saying, "I just finished taping with Stephen Colbert, who announced his show was canceled. If Paramount and CBS ended The Late Show for political reasons, the public deserves to know and deserves better." Elizabeth Warren added, "CBS canceled Colbert's show just 3 days after Colbert called out CBS parent company Paramount for its $16 million settlement with Trump, a deal that looks like bribery. America deserves to know if the show is canceled for political reasons. Watch and share his message." Boy, so the public deserves, so the term, if you want to talk about The Late Show, is deserves to know. The American people deserve to know if this was canceled for political reasons. Now, CBS, of course, said in a statement that it was not, that it was purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night. So there you are. Do I want to go to other media updates? Yes, a few more media updates. We are going to get to Epstein. We do have a guest coming up here in just a little bit. Dana Bash, this is the first one. I'm just showing you bias. Bear with me. Donald Trump took to Truth Social and posted, "It's very important that all Republicans adhere to my rescission bill, and in particular defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS and NPR, which is worse than CNN and MSDNC put together. Any Republican that votes to allow this monstrosity to continue broadcasting will not have my support or endorsement." So Dana Bash, the CNN anchor, started reading it. And instead of finishing where he said, "which is worse than CNN and MSDNC put together," she cuts off and says, "I'm not even going to read that." And then, speaking of CBS with Stephen Colbert, listen to this. I want to get your take on this. Just showing you a couple of media updates, and then we're going to move along. But CBS News correspondent Scott MacFarlane, he wildly claimed that he was, quote, diagnosed with PTSD within 48 hours of President Trump's assassination attempt in Butler. Because he, not because of what he saw, what he witnessed, the fact that we were not even inches away from the assassination of a presidential candidate and former president. No, because he was convinced the crowd was going to murder him and other members of the media. This also gives you a really important look inside the media's head, their ego, their narcissism, that it's all about them. For those of us there, it was such a horror because you saw an emerging America. I got diagnosed with PTSD within 48 hours. I got put on trauma leave. Not because I think of the shooting, but because you saw it in the eyes, the reaction of the people. They were coming for us. If he didn't jump up with his fist, they were going to come kill us. He said in reference to the now iconic photo, the fight photo. So he believed that the audience was going to kill the media because they blamed the media. This is just an amazing study into the narcissism of those in the media and the bubble that they live in, where they believe that they are the most important entity in America. Many of us on press row, because we talked about this on our text change for weeks after, were quite confident we'd be dead if he didn't get back up. When he jumped up triumphantly, it saved us. He further claimed dozens of people in the audience that day instantly turned on members of the media, calling out, "You did this, this is your fault, you caused this, you killed him," and speculating they were about to beat us with their hands. So Chuck Todd, who was the host of this podcast, said, "Look, let's be honest, we've been fearing this for about a decade. That all of this heightened rhetoric, all of this stuff online, what happened on January 6th, we're a tinderbox. There's the fear that this moment is coming," he said, before appearing to kind of clarify some of the unhinged assertions. "The fact that we dodged that, you're right. I don't know what would have happened had the outcome been different." McFarland, hinting he hasn't quite fully shaken his PTSD, added, "I can't eliminate from my mind's eye the look in their faces. That's what America is right now. It's not rational. It's irrational thought to think the media shot somebody from the top of the building." So the looks of the eyes of the Trump supporters that were upset that there was an attempted assassination on a former president of the United States. And again, the PTSD wasn't because he was a part of where people died. It was, and people were shot. He got PTSD because he felt that the people in the crowd would turn on him. That's what we're dealing with when we talk about the media. There's also a very good point by David Hersani when talking about the media. And he says, when President Joe Biden, was he aware of who he was pardoning in the final days of his presidency? Or were White House staffers behind the unprecedented string of auto pen signing? In recent weeks, evidence has been mounting that the former president may not have been in the loop, which is, to be charitable, problematic. Lucky for us, the folks at NBC News jumped into action with a storied headline. Quote, lead investigator into Biden's use of auto pen signed letters with a digital signature. In it, the reporters make an inane equivalence between lead investigator James Comer signing PDFs using a digital signature, a completely legal thing to do, and Biden allegedly allowing his staff to issue blanket presidential pardons for thousands of people without knowing the names or crimes of the recipients. As anyone who works in an office could tell you, one of these instances is done for practical reasons. Unless you print, sign, and rescan every single letter you send, the only way to sign a PDF is to use a digital signature. But Biden's assisted signature was used to administer an awesome list, or an awesome constitutional power, used by the president and only the president. It's not just NBC. Rather than investigate a possible immense political scandal, many in the media focused on the auto pens. So what the argument is here, they're not talking about the scandal and the cover-up of Biden's mental health for 4 years. It's just the use of the auto pen. We already know that the legacy media hadn't really missed Joe Biden's inability to perform the most rudimentary presidential duties. Most of them were participating in the cover-up, and they still are, and that's proof. All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, of course, brought to us by our friends at Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Coming up in the next break, we're going to hear from Steuben Senior Services Fund. I do want to cover just quickly. We're going to go to break soon because I don't want to run too late in this hour because we have a lot to cover in today's program. And I thank you to the viewer who sent in, I think, a perfect response. I had asked, because I couldn't think of a word to describe Republicans' voting records. What I mean by that is Democrats always vote no. And my question is to you this morning, do you think there'll be a piece of Trump's legislation that a Democrat will vote yes on, major legislation? I don't personally think so. And I couldn't think of a word to describe Republicans who obviously don't always vote together. And I think the viewer had a great point. Not cohesive. Yes. Thank you very much. So the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him bawdy letters for a 50th birthday album, and one was from Donald Trump. Why this is coming out now is back from 2003, the birthday album. Pages from the leather-bound album, assembled before Epstein was first arrested in 2006, are among the documents examined by Justice Department officials who investigated Epstein and Maxwell years ago, according to people who have reviewed the pages. It's unclear if any of the pages are part of the Trump administration's recent reviews. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, all the details. It was just a drawing of a woman, and Trump had signed it. Trump has now vowed to sue Rupert Murdoch over the birthday letter report. I told Rupert Murdoch it was a scam, that he shouldn't print this fake story, but he did. And now I'm going to sue his you-know-what off, and that of his third-rate newspaper. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. In an earlier statement posted on Truth, Trump's team said he personally warned Murdoch that the letter was a fake. Mr. Murdoch stated that he would take care of it, but obviously did not have the power to do so. Additionally, the journal's top editor, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Carolyn Leavitt and by President Trump that the letter was fake, but Emma Tucker didn't want to hear that. The statement confirmed rumors that had been swirling in political and media circles, namely that the White House was trying to prevent the Journal from publishing a story involving Trump and Epstein. Trump calling it a hoax, stupid, and foolish. Now, key influencers are now rallying behind Trump after the Epstein hit backfires with the Wall Street Journal. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, journalist Megyn Kelly, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, and journalist Jack Posobiec were among the influencers who took to X on Thursday night to question the Journal's report of an alleged letter Trump supposedly wrote to Epstein in 2003, which Trump says is fake. Megyn Kelly saying, "This is the dumbest attempted hit piece I've ever read." Yeah, the letter sounds bogus. Kirk, who had a personal relationship with the president for years, said the language in the letter bore no resemblance to Trump's. "This is not how Trump talks at all. I don't believe it." Posobiec, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right, said if Trump was in the Epstein files, it would have been released a decade ago, and there wouldn't have been any need to make up a fake Russian dossier. That's a really good point. I'm not sure. It doesn't say here what Elon Musk said specifically. The alleged letter in question includes a third-person dialogue between Trump and Epstein inside the drawing of a naked woman, which includes Trump's signature. Though White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt says the outlet admitted to the administration it did not have possession of the letter it bases the story on. Now this is in the news cycle for, another week. Trump yesterday did say release all pertinent grand jury testimony in the Epstein case. This was... writing on Truth Social, the president called the Epstein controversy a scam. Based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I've asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam perpetrated by Democrats should end right now. And we know that Democrats have, what they believe, found a way to make political hay out of this. Hakeem Jeffries, getting into it, loves the fact that they believe they have something that can hurt him amongst his supporters. According to the Wall Street Journal, it featured several lines of typewritten text surrounded by the outline of a drawing of a naked woman sketched in marker. The illustration also included two small arcs. I'm not going to go through all that. The letter reportedly concludes, "Happy birthday, may every day be another wonderful secret." Does not sound like, well, as Trump wrote, "This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a fake Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal just like I sued everyone else." It is interesting that they admit they don't even have the letter, right? The Wall Street Journal doesn't even have a copy of the letter. "Forgive my language." This is J.D. Vance now. "Forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter baloney. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Where's the letter? Would you be shocked to learn that they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?" Boy, it is starting to sound more like Russia, isn't it? What's your thoughts on it? We got to take a break because when we come back, we're going to hear from our friends at Steuben Senior Services Fund. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we're talking bubbly and brunch. Thanks for being back on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Are you excited?
Fifth annual.
I was going to ask, has it been fine?
Well, we had a little interruption during COVID,
Of course, yeah,
but
of course.
This is our 5th year.
It's coming up on Sunday, July 27th from 11 till 2. Before we get started, what should someone know about Bubbly and Brunch? What is it?
It's a huge fundraiser, but it's a lot of fun.
It sounds it.
I guess I would say that. The Doyle family donates the space to us. They serve mimosas and various other sparkling beverages.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful brunch served by Timberstone Restaurant. Huge variety. We have a wine pull. We have a giant silent auction.
Yeah, and you can't give any of those away yet, though, right? What's going to be on the silent auction?
Oh, well, I can tell you some things, and we're going to be online this year. We tried it last year, and we did well online.
Okay.
So we're going to have some of our items online as well as there.
Okay.
So people can bid on their phones.
Oh, great idea.
So that's kind of fun. I've done that in other venues before, and that's a lot of fun. We have games. We have a wonderful DJ this year, Sean. Can you say his last name? I'm not going
Makowicz.
There we go.
Thank you.
Sean works with us, and he also does a Walk on the Wild Side. This is his DJ business.
Great.
And so he does all sorts of things at weddings and other events. So he's going to be there with us, not only playing music, but doing announcements and engaging the office, or excuse me, the guests in various games.
Sure.
That we've not done the games before, so that's going to be something new, and maybe a little karaoke. We'll see if that works out.
Depends on how many
Excited.
mimosas, right?
Yeah, just a little different spin this year on some
Right.
things. Yep.
But the auction is a lot of fun. We have at least, if not more, $11,000 or $12,000 worth of auction items. It's huge.
Is that difficult to compile that many people to give you such great donations? That must be a year-round job.
We have a wonderful board of directors and a couple of other volunteers who go to the businesses all over the county, people that they know, that they buy from anyway, they engage with anyway, and they ask for the donations. So it's not just Crystal and I getting the donations, although we do that too.
Well, when you mentioned the silent auction, can anybody do the silent auction since it's online, or are you
Yes.
supposed to also participate in the
Oh,
Bubbly
no,
Brunch?
you can actually, if you can't make it that day,
Yeah.
we encourage you to bid on the items. Now, for example, one of the hot items we're very excited about is we have an authenticated, signed Keon Coleman, excuse me, I guess I have to say the right name, Keon Coleman. He's a Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
And we have one of his cleats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
And so
That's gonna
that's,
be a big
that's
one.
that.
Very
And when
exciting.
I was telling people about that in another venue, they were like, "What?
How did you get that?
How
Right?
did you get that?" We asked.
Yeah, well, and they probably have tons of cleats lying around, right?
I don't know, but it's since he is quite a star, a rising star, we think that will go well, and that will be on the online auction as well as there at the event, because we will continue the online right there at the event.
And I've got to say, it's such a beautiful venue for it, too.
It's
It
gorgeous.
I was
sure
up not
is.
that long
It
ago,
sure
but it's
is.
just perfect for an event like this.
Yeah, it works beautifully.
And everybody seems, I was looking at the picture, everybody just seems to have such a great time when they're at Bubbly and Brunch. Aren't they?
Yeah,
They
for
do.
sure.
Yeah,
For
they
sure,
do.
for
And
sure.
and we put the games in for the people who may not want to do so much of the bidding on the auction items, but we've got some games that they can win some prizes. They can do the wine pull. We have gorgeous art. That's another thing that's really, we have beautiful art from area artists, as well
Very
as
exciting.
some wonderful pieces from a man by the name of Jim Dungate. He lives down near the Hudson River, and he is donating a number of pictures, which he has done the last 3 years in memory of his niece,
That's very nice.
who was the daughter of one of our board members.
Okay.
And so we're very thrilled to have more of his paintings. He's known widely, so we're very pleased that he is donating. I believe it's six this year.
Yep.
So we're excited.
Well, in Bubbly and Brunch, we're talking about it Sunday, July 27th, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Doors open at 10:30 a.m. Pleasant Valley Wine Company. Do you ask the people buy tickets ahead of time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no
Yes.
at the door, right?
None at the door. We've got to know how many brunches we're going
that's
to
what
be
I thought.
serving.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure, you know how people anymore, it seems like, are a little bit, wait till the last minute.
Right.
Yeah.
That's always my agita is waiting on the ticket sales every year. And
Yeah.
we usually sell out, but it's always, are we going to this year? Are we going to this year? So, and we're doing well. The board members all sell tickets
Okay.
as well, and we do. And we have a couple here today
Ooh.
that, maybe there's a way that you can tell
Yes.
people about it. They can call in for a ticket.
I will figure that out. What we'll do is after this interview, I'll tell people how they can win. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah,
I'll come
you'll
up with a
figure out
program.
how they can win.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Yes.
true.
Really excited. The first year that when I started at the Office for the Aging, I came just as a participant.
Yeah.
Last year, I worked as a staff member, as a Full Circle America coordinator,
Yeah.
and just to see even the last couple of years from my experience of progression and the level of auction items and the level of sponsorship that we've received has been
that's-
outstanding.
yeah.
It's the gratitude is, I can't even describe.
Do you find that people come back to you, that you don't have to seek them out like when you first started 5 years ago? Now it's almost, hey, don't forget me next year. I want to be a part of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Sure.
That's got to be
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
nice.
It's very rewarding.
Yes.
So it's a good cause, but it's a lot of fun as well. So we always try to emphasize that and have some good food and a nice drink or two, and
I can't think of a better Sunday.
yeah.
Bubbly and Brunch, Sunday, July 27th, 11 a.m. till 2. Now, you mentioned it goes to a good cause. Tell us about where the money goes to.
Okay, we use the money that we raise there for Full Circle America, which is our main project. That's our flagship project.
Yeah.
We do a lot of other little things too, but Full Circle America is the big thing that we're fundraising for. So Crystal is our coordinator, and she can tell a little bit about that.
So Full Circle America is in partnership with Dr. Teal out of the state of Maine. They have a staff of medical, a team that looks in on cameras. We install cameras that are passive. They don't pick up conversation or those kinds of things. But really, it's just to look in on the loved one, to make sure that they're moving around about their day, and that they're safe in their home. The beauty about this program is that it really supports the caregiver. The caregiver piece is really, really huge. So, like myself, many still have to, maintain employment, but we want to make sure that our loved one is safe at home.
Of course.
And so through the use of an application that you can download on a phone or your computer, whatever, you can check in on your loved one and make sure that they're doing well, and then move on about your day. Maintain your employment. Some people still want to be able to travel. They have other obligations, but they still want to make sure that their loved one is safe, and the cameras are able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's through great discussion, where
Right.
we're placing those, in the home, those kinds of things. So
And then we make sure each home has an Amazon Echo show.
Okay.
So the person there can have an actual conference, a video conference with their loved one. All voice activated, so Crystal does all the programming, so the member of Full Circle America can just say, call my son.
Yeah. Isn't that
Or
great?
call Dr. Teal.
Yeah.
Because they call medical help, however we've programmed it, they can call and get medical help, get their son or daughter to respond, whatever is needed. Or maybe it's just they want to sit down with their grandson who lives in Louisiana. I always use Louisiana. I'm not sure why. But the grandson
sure
who
it's
lives in
happened.
Louisiana, and they want to have lunch together. So grandson can be on his phone, and grandma is at home in Steuben County, and they can sit
Amazing.
and talk with each other and have a little lunch together.
What has the reaction been to this program for people that have been a part of it?
Very positive.
Yeah.
On all fronts. The person, we have people say, I'm not going to have any cameras in my house.
I'm sure that's how
You
it always
know?
starts.
Oh, yeah. But then they realize the benefit. They realize we're not going to just sit there and stare at them.
Right.
That it's done discreetly at certain times of the day. Nobody's going to watch them in a room that they shouldn't be watching them in.
Right.
and that it's going to relieve the caregiver of that stress and strain. Is mom okay? Maybe
Right.
mom's falling a lot.
Sure.
And they're constantly worrying at work. Well, they can just check their phone and they can see that mom's okay. And so, or they can have a little chat during the day. We've had situations where people have actually fallen. And so
Okay.
they can call their son and say, I need help getting up. A lot of times people don't want the ambulance there because then it's going to result in, let's see, we got to go in the ER and we've got to have all these tests. And then maybe we'll need a night of observation and this and that. So
Right.
we try to bypass that if it's not necessary.
Of course.
And make sure that they're safe at the same time. So caregivers love it. I've had so many people say things like it's better than sliced bread, the old saying, right?
Yes, of course.
Or it's worth every cent you pay.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, because their incomes are lower, We fundraise with, and the United Way supports us, and
Wonderful.
the Bethesda Foundation, and so on and so forth. So we get a lot of community support, Bubbly and Brunch.
Of course.
And that helps to pay the fee to Dr. Teal and his staff. And they will do medical consultations, get the family to understand what's going on with their loved one. So there's a lot of benefits to it, to everyone.
How does someone participate? Because is there a waiting list? That sounds like something there would be a waiting list for.
Currently, we do not have a waiting
wow.
list.
Okay.
Right. Over the years, we've served 111. Currently, we have 28 as members, active members.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed we'll go up to like 35. You know, just so it's
about-
manageable.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm case.
She's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I assumed. Yeah, I
I'm the
figured
care
there was a
coordinator. But I
cap.
would say
Yeah.
though that, you know, I'm not just doing that alone. We do partner with a lot of other agencies to make sure that services are in place that will support our senior to
Right.
remain at home if that's what they wish to do.
And Office for Aging staff is very involved.
Absolutely.
Crystal speaks with them if home delivered meals are needed, if a lifeline personal emergency response button is needed,
Right.
if the family wants to talk about options, other types of options, she'll put them in touch with New York Connects, which is part of our office. So there's a lot of integration of this with the Office for Aging.
That's wonderful. And tell us a little bit, I know we've talked about it numerous times in the past, but tell us about the jobs that Steuben Senior Services Fund does in general, if people aren't familiar with the organization.
Well, we're mainly trying to build an awareness and a resource for aging in place. That's our main mission,
Right.
is empowering people to stay at home for as long as possible,
Yeah.
whatever that entails. We have some aging in place project in some rural townships, Urbana, Pulteney, Wayne, and then there's one in Woodhull, Jasper, Cameron, and Troopsburg. So we have those. We wish we could have more because
Yeah.
the seniors, I know from when I've spoken about them, the seniors would love them. Can't we have one here? Well, you know, you have to have money to be able
Yeah,
to have
right.
them more places. So Crystal is the point person on those, as well as the Full Circle America Project. We do a lot with Sue Gruber and Creating Your Forever Home, and Mike Hurley out of Gerald's Pharmacy. We have been sponsoring seminars in
Okay.
various parts of the county so that people know what will help them stay at home. What can they do in their home as cost effectively as possible to be able to stay at home? So
Yeah.
that's our main focus.
Yeah, what a great organization. That's why everybody
Thank
needs
you.
to support Bubbly and Brunch. Where can people go to get their tickets?
They can call the Office for the Aging, which is where we are located. The number is 607-664-2298, and order their tickets. We can also do them on Eventbrite. If they want to go to Eventbrite online, they can purchase their tickets there for a slight upcharge.
I found it by just searching Bubbly and Brunch, Steuben County. So that Eventbrite will come up right after that.
Oh,
if you Google
perfect.
search it. Yep.
I hadn't
Yep.
known that.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Because I love the caption, just to show you how much fun it is. Join us for a fun-filled morning of mimosas, delicious brunch, and good vibes at Bubbly and Brunch. I
Yeah.
like that. Is that what
Yeah.
you say it is? That's
Yeah,
a good
there
description.
you go. I like
Absolutely.
that.
We're
Yes.
just really excited about the great selection of auction items this year.
And,
Yeah,
and,
it's just-
and also, we're very excited that your very own mayor, Bill Boland,
Of
and his
course.
wife are our honorary co-chairs this year.
very nice.
So we're very happy to have them involved with us
Yes.
this year. And we just have such great support all over the county. It's
He's
wonderful.
so active, the mayor. He's
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, this is his last year. This is the fun year, right?
Yeah,
He's
right.
happy. This is when he gets to do all the
Give it
stuff
up
he
for
wants
Bill.
to do. Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. Best of luck, of course, with Bubbly and Brunch coming up on Sunday, June 27th, 11 a.m. till 2. Everybody get their tickets now, and I'll tell everybody to make sure that they tune in, because after this, we're going to give you a chance to win a ticket, but you have to stay tuned. So thanks again for being on the show. Best of luck.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Frank.
much.
Appreciate
All right, let's
it.
do it again
Thank
soon.
you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
you.
we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple quick things. Thank you to our guest, Steuben County Hall of Famer Linda Teeter and Crystal Watkins, for being on the program. We still have a ticket to give away if you would like to go to Bubbly and Brunch Sunday, July 27th from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Pleasant Valley Winery. Send in your name right now, and I will contact you on how I can get these tickets to you. So please, we'd love to have you go and attend. By the way, Not only is there a silent auction, raffles, door prizes, it's a $75 ticket, yours for free for being a viewer of Frankly Speaking if you're the first one to send in your name. Also, their silent auction is up online now. So if you'd like to bid on the wonderful, I guess you could, prizes? Lots? How about lots? That Linda had mentioned. That is the website, 32auctions.com/BBBrunch2025. All right. All right, we got a winner. And I will contact you in just a moment. Thank you. All right. Let's get back to it. Epstein. Oh, let's read viewer comments. Also brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. What a great organization. Empowering seniors to age at home. All right. Comments from viewers. Given that the Democrats have consistently voted no, it is clear that they do not care about their constituents, but only about taking Trump down. Absolutely. I mean, if Tom Suozzi said the big, beautiful bill, 75% he agreed with, and he still was a no, it was because the Democrats told him he had to be a no. They don't really care about what will benefit their constituents. They care about bringing down Trump. I think the Epstein story speaks volumes to that. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Hey, Mark. Good morning. Epstein. Is that all the media has? And if Trump drew a picture, is it against the law? Come on, Dems. You need a better one to get Trump. Keep on trying as you will. They definitely will keep on trying. I know when the Wall Street Journal can't even report or can't even show the original letter. I mean, this is a stretch. Trump is vowing, of course, to sue the Wall Street Journal because of it. Trump has also directed Pam Bondi to release pertinent grand jury testimony, saying, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam, perpetrated by the Democrats, should end right now. Trump's decision follows immense pressure from his base for more transparency. Is there a lot of pressure from his base in the sense, is he worried? If you're a MAGA person, if you voted for Trump, you have the Trump flag, is that coming down because of, and I hate to word it this way, but Pam Bondi's handling of the situation? Now, there is the point being made by, Glenn Thrush, saying even after Bondi gains Trump's backing, her survival remains an open question. Do you think Pam Bondi will survive through all of this? Now, as I mentioned, PR-wise, it was not the best PR campaign. But we'll talk about that coming up. Nick Langworthy, our congressman, weighed in on it. Some other people weighing in on it. I do have to take a break. I realize I'm running late this morning. I apologize. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. All right, just before we wrap up hour number one, I wanted to read what Congressman Langworthy had to say about Epstein. Now, I know that some were trying to make political hay out of it because he voted against that. It was so weird. It was a cryptocurrency bill. And it was in committee. He voted against it because they had added an amendment to it about the Epstein files. It made no sense to the original. It was all political grandstanding. So he wants to clarify his position because there are some that have suggested otherwise. He said, I stand, and this is in after the House Rules Committee advanced H Resolution 589 about the transparency of the Epstein files. He said, I stand with my Republican colleagues in demanding the full release of all credible Epstein documents while ensuring the privacy and dignity of the victims are protected. Every individual who committed crimes, especially against minors, must face the full weight of the law. This resolution is about truth, justice, and accountability. It stands in sharp contrast to the Democrats' shameful record. 4 years of silence, inaction, and cover-ups under the Biden administration. Just this week, they tried to pass a phony amendment that wouldn't have released a single document. I voted no because it was nothing more than a political stunt, not a path to justice. If Democrats actually cared about transparency, they had 4 years to act. They chose to do nothing. Tonight, they had a chance to join Republicans in finally delivering answers. Once again, they chose obstruction and silence. House Republicans are taking real concrete steps to expose the truth, deliver justice for the victims, and ensure that every perpetrator is held accountable. We will not back down. We will not be deterred. The American people deserve the truth, and we're going to get it. Thank you to Congressman Nick Langworthy. All right, wrap it up hour number one. I know we're moving fast. Stay with us. We'll read your comments when we come back. We just got to take this short break. I can't believe it. Hour number one. Over. Hour number two. Moments away. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. It's hour number 2 as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Congratulations to our winner of the Bubbly and Brunch tickets, but you can still attend that great event on Sunday, July 27th at the Pleasant Valley Winery Visitor Center, 11 till 2 p.m. And by the way, their silent auction is now up online. So check out all the amazing lots that you can bid on. Okay, I got good news. We always have good news on this program. But it's Friday. That can mean only one thing. Climate Fact Friday from Bob. How about kicking off the program, the second hour, with that? Fluster, I'm having such a good time this morning. All right, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Climate Fact Friday from Bob. It seems that flash flooding is on every newscast these days. I'm not trying to make light of the Texas disaster. It was a horrible flooding event. People are quick to claim that these flooding issues are caused by climate change. Even the IPCC International Panel on Climate Change said there is low confidence that climate change has had any effect on the frequency of flooding. Rivers and streams that have not been altered by human activity, flooding has not changed at all. One major issue is rain runoff from developing areas where more asphalt and concrete is covering the land surface. This is not climate change induced, rather mismanagement. That's where a lot of the confusion about flooding causes come from. The mainstream media and climate warriors cause a lot of misinformation as well. They just cannot waste a good disaster to further their agenda. The peer-reviewed Journal of Hydrology, my subscription just ran up, looked at flooding trends in the U.S. and Europe. The trends were about the same as trends due to chance alone. On another point, Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced legislation to outlaw all weather and climate modification, including cloud seeding and solar engineering. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Same with you, Bob. Thank you so much. We always look forward to Climate Fact Friday from Bob. Got a lot of responsibility now, Bob, and we appreciate it. Back quickly to Epstein. Pelosi's calling on, this is how you could tell it's extremely political. First of all, they could have released these documents for the last 4 years, right? That was never an issue. Democrats they always called it a distraction. Well, yesterday, Pelosi said that releasing the Epstein documents was a distraction. Oh, okay, finally. Someone being a little level-headed. Whoa. About an hour later, after suggesting that Americans should focus on the debate over the rescission package being considered in Congress rather than the so-called Epstein files, Pelosi weighed in on President Trump's handling of the case, demanding the documents be released. So she says it's a distraction from what's really important, the rescission bill. And then an hour later, she says, I demand the release. That's all you know that they got in Washington. They get their memos. Democrats sent out the memo. This is our talking points for today. Now, there's argument whether or not that comes from the media or if it comes from other Democrats, but it's still. So this is a distraction, Pelosi told MSNBC host Chris Jansen when asked about what Trump could do to get his supporters to move on from the Epstein matter. We have major issues right here with things we're voting on today in Congress. And instead, we're talking about him, about this thing, and his own base has its own views of what the president should do, she continued. I'll leave it up to them to talk it out. Whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or Alcatraz, it's all the subjects of what they're doing with this budget that is harmful to the kitchen table, meeting the kitchen table needs of the American people. When asked to clarify her comments, Pelosi doubled down, calling the Epstein debate and Trump's vision of refurbishing Alcatraz so it can once again house prisoners both distractions. I think that they're off the subject of what is happening, changing the character and the culture of America by placing huge trillions of dollars of national debt on future generations to carry forward at the expense of the health, nutrition, and education of the American people. Shortly after that appearance, she must have got a phone call telling her, whoa, from Hakeem Jeffries. Whoa, we're on a different message. Never mind the rescission bill. Never mind your normal talking points. We have to focus on Epstein. For reasons known only to him, Donald Trump is now refusing to appoint a special prosecutor in the Epstein case after weeks of refusing to release the Epstein files, she wrote on X. This week, House Democrats voted unanimously to release the files. Republicans voted to keep them hidden. With deep respect for the victims or trauma and their privacy, everyone on the Epstein list must be held accountable no matter who they are. Release the files. Now, a couple of things could have happened here. She got the talking points and she said, get a tweet out. I just made a mistake on MSNBC. More likely, her communications director, who wrote that whole tweet, had scheduled it well in advance and she was not aware that that was her talking point. That would be more like it. Guess who else had to weigh in? Who always joins the party a little late. Long time, right up until the last moment. Biden supporter, Governor Kathy Hochul. She said, let's talk about what New Yorkers really care about at the start of a topic at Capitol. Why won't the Attorney General in Washington release the Jeffrey Epstein files? Because I want to know what's in them. What are they hiding? What's the cover-up all about? That's what I think New Yorkers have in mind right now. No, New Yorkers have in mind, actually, the release that just came out yesterday about the massive city, but also the massive state budgets are grossly overspending and putting us all at risk, according to a fiscal watchdog, that we are unaffordable and unprepared. The Citizens Budget Commission recommended nixing Governor Hochul's pet project, the $2 billion inflation reduction checks, which again happened to come out right before Election Day. Very convenient. The nonpartisan group also ripped the mayoral candidate, yada, yada, yada. But no, people care about the public safety, which we have a story about here in just a moment. The people of New York care about their taxes and, again, how unaffordable it is to live in New York State. That's what we care about. Public safety, all the issues, energy prices. But she thinks it's clever to attack Trump on Jeffrey Epstein. Don't think for a moment she may not be thinking about 2028 presidential run. She may just have that ego. But the same articles after article, because the Wall Street Journal had that piece. Now, Donald Trump is trapped. Why the president's usual tactics won't end the Epstein scandal, says Matt Ford. Is President Donald Trump in serious trouble? It's much too soon to know, but he is struggling to an unusual degree to contain the fallout from the Justice Department's announcement earlier this month that sought to dispel many of the popular beliefs about Jeffrey Epstein. Federal investigators asserted that there was no evidence about client lists, yada, yada, yada. So he's trapped. Or the American conservative writes, the Trump swamp. The swamp has devoured Donald Trump so completely that the man has been reduced to a skulking shadow of the fighting warrior he once promised to be. The Epstein denial is the final nail in the coffin. Whatever we thought Trump might be, he clearly is not. Whew. But I think Douglas Murray, and I'd love to hear your points on it. Douglas Murray says, how many voters really care about Jeffrey Epstein? Twitter is not the real world. If you were on the social media site for the past week, you'd have thought the most important issue to American voters is the dead criminal Jeffrey Epstein. There's a huge amount we still don't know about the convicted sex offender, and there's plenty about him, the sources of his wealth, high-profile connections, and manner of his death the public deserves to know about. But outside the Twitter sphere, Epstein isn't the story at the moment. Some MAGA influencers have decided that the release or otherwise of all known information about Epstein is a make-or-break issue between them and the president. The president has expressed understandable frustration that he should be distracted from matters like, say, the economy and keep getting asked about Epstein. Online personalities threaten that Trump is going to lose all support from his base unless every file relating to Epstein is released. And yet, despite this bragging threat, the polls show otherwise. President Trump's approval rating among Republican voters actually went up this week, according to two separate polls. So whether or not the administration is right in its attitude towards the files, Trump himself is absolutely wise to look at his Twitter critics and say, oh yeah, you and whose online army. All right, moving on from that, but we can continue to talk about it if you'd like. But that's kind of just your update on Epstein. I don't want to spend the whole show on it, and I know we're running late because we have a lot to cover. By the way, speaking of polls, Elon Musk's favorability now has plummeted to 23%. Musk only garnered 23% favorability in the CNN poll, with his unfavorability at 60%. And get this, 3% of respondents said they had never heard of the Tesla and SpaceX CEO. Who are those 3%? I tie him in with the Epstein because he added fuel to the fire, and I think it's, well, I think he bit off more than he can chew. No one can deny he's a genius, but you can definitely deny he's a political genius. He's not a political genius at that. Yesterday it was announced and kind of got overlooked in some ways that Trump is suffering from chronic conditions after the lower leg swelling sparks concern. President Trump has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a blood circulation issue, after noticing mild swelling in his lower leg, said Carolyn Levitt. Levitt made the surprise disclosure while addressing conjecture about recent bruising on Trump's hands, which she said was assessed to be minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin as preventative heart health measures. In an effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies, bilateral lower extremity, venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified additionally. Recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy, and the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. Yeah, and if you went to Drudge Report and elsewhere, you would have thought it was the end of the world. Again, it's very frustrating to see the coverage of something like that when we had 4 years of no coverage of a president's health whatsoever. But there we are. All right, we're going to take a short break. We're going to talk about New York State. We got a couple updates there. Then we've got a few things about the Democrat Party in general, trying to get their message out. Their message right now is about Epstein. Seems disingenuous when they had 4 years, right? That they could have demanded its release easily, 4 years. Consistently calling it a distraction. Even Nancy Pelosi not getting the memo, calling it a distraction as early as yesterday, or as late as yesterday. But now they see it as a way to attack Trump just like they did with Russia, right? They think this is going to hurt him with his base. So your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear from you. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Ball Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. And we got a lot of comments coming in. So let's read them during the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program. Where is it? There it is. Empowering seniors to age at home. Again, congratulations to our ticket winner for the upcoming Bubbly and Brunch on Sunday, July 27th. But you can still attend by purchasing tickets. All right. Mark writes in, where has Pelosi been? Did she crawl out from under the same rock as Cuomo? Maybe they need to investigate how she is so rich. Yeah, no kidding. Yep. That was a very lucrative job for her to join Congress, wasn't it? Ken writes in, how would Hochul know what New Yorkers care about? She gets her information and talking points from her Democrat handlers that only care about themselves and their donors. By the way, did you hear Mamadani's comment saying he doesn't know what purpose prisons serve? Sounds par for the course. Sounds on point. That tracks, as they say. So I didn't hear that one specifically, but I follow it on the perimeters only because it is New York City, though I do think it is something that we should all be studying in a way, because I do think Mamadani is where the Democrat Party is headed. I'm going to try to read this. This came in over, so when you call in this program and leave a voicemail, I love it. Thank you. But Google translates it for me so I can read it without listening to it, because it would then come over the air. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was wondering now that if you're going to be discussing New York State, how the green energy effects are kind of a little confused on that. Green affects our bills. Oh, okay. Thank you. Maybe you could explain. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you. You too. Have a great day. Well, the green energy, the problem is if you look at something like the Climate Change Superfund, for instance, this is just one quick example. And what I'll do is I'll have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on here shortly. He knows it like the back of his hand. But if you look at the Climate Change Superfund, what she did is she said, okay, these gas businesses that have been doing everything by the book, all the red tape that we could throw at them, they were still doing it all okay. But because of climate change, we're still going to fine them $3 billion a year. Well, where does that money come from? Eventually, it comes from you, the user, right? That's just one small example, sadly, small example. It's all the mandates that she's put on with the green energy initiatives that ultimately end up costing, for instance, with electricity. We have to have more grids. We have to have more capability because we have to have so many EVs and all of these. And your whole house is supposed to be electric. The grid's not there yet. But that's why all of the costs that's associated with this to keep building it and expanding it, there's cost to that. There's fines and penalties. I mean, the list goes on and on. I hope that answers your questions. That's just a quick kind of understatement of all the ways that her decisions on global warming or climate change initiatives are, at the end of the day, being put on to the consumer. As a matter of fact, I think it was a Climate Change Superfund where Carl Hastie even said there's never been a fine like this where it hasn't been put back on the consumer, and yet he let it go up the vote and it passed. He knew it would end up pass, or he got pressure and ended up allowing it to pass. They don't care about you at the end of the day. They care about their virtue signaling, which is all this is. It's virtue signaling. Jack thanks the Democrats, but I think he thinks the Democrats should be careful what they wish for when it comes to the Epstein files being released. I'm sure the files that they want released have been totally cleaned of left supporters, but there's so much info that I'm betting that there's backup information on the left. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's one of the major concerns, that there's been scrubbing of the documents already. Because listen, in my opinion, if there was something that could get Trump, right, could really have negatively affected Trump, you don't think that would have come out a long, long time ago? We all know it would, on both sides of the aisle. I mean, they had Russia for 4 years. You don't think they would have jumped on Epstein as soon as they could? At the very least, Kamala Harris wouldn't have released it. That's why the Wall Street Journal's reporting is raising serious questions, because they haven't even been able to produce the letter. They just had heard about the letter. Okay, but back on to New York State issues, and keep those comments coming in. We talk about Governor Hochul saying, I want to talk about what real New Yorkers care about. That's Epstein files. To your point, Ken, doesn't it always seem like you said that it's just a Democrat talking points that she gets? Doesn't it seem like they always give her the talking points just a little bit late and a little bit off? It's always like she's a little bit late to the party. And it always comes off very forced and awkward, as if, hey, you've got to mention this, right? But she said she knows what New York is. She has no idea. It's about public safety. It's about the cost of living. And to that point, the New York Post editorial board, and this is a little bit city-centric, but deal with me. Scotty Enoy, a CVS worker, and Charles Brito, a homeless serial shoplifter, are the latest victims of New York's disastrous criminal justice reforms. In 2023, Scotty Enoy found himself fighting for his life after Brito attacked him. The employee fought back by fatally stabbing his attacker with a pocket knife. Now, Enro's on trial for manslaughter, facing up to 25 years in prison, and Brito is dead. It's tragic for both men and absolutely nuts. And it's thanks mostly to New York's refusal to slap meaningful consequences on shoplifters like Brito and get them off the streets. And to pro-criminal district attorneys like Manhattan's Alvin Bragg, who targets victims while bending over backwards to let perps slide. Brito, after all, had been nabbed more than a dozen times and was a known drugstore thief in the area. He had several other run-ins with Eno. Before the fight, Brito allegedly announced his intention to steal, bragging, "You can't blanking stop me." Why should any worker be put in a situation like that? But such stories have become commonplace since Albany passed reforms, like cashless bail, letting perps go free just minutes after their arrest, before the ink has even dried on the reports. Again, tying the hands of law enforcement, coddling criminals. And it's not just a city issue. We've seen it here in upstate New York. We've seen it in our local areas. Bail reform has been disastrous. Then you've got to raise the age law, which has led to these violent shootings and gang membership of young people. Because there's no consequences. So gangs are recruiting young people, having them hold on to the guns and money and drugs because they can't get in any trouble. But I continue. Charging Enoy with manslaughter only makes it all worse. And this is not the first time Bragg has dragged victims and do-gooders in court. He went after former Marine Daniel Penny, who accidentally killed Jordan Neely while trying to subdue him after Neely threatened riders on his subway train in 2023. Bragg also charged Manhattan deli clerk Jose Alba with murder for stabbing to death an ex-con who attacked him over a bag of chips. In 2022, Alba's prosecution sparked support for Stand Your Ground legislation, which would amend state law that requires New Yorkers to retreat before resorting to deadly force. At the time, GOP gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin expressed support for the measure, telling the Post, "If someone comes in, forces you to defend yourself, the government shouldn't be forcing you to run away. Amen." Predictably, opposition by progressive lawmakers killed the bill. Now New Yorkers are stuck with serial perps that repeatedly threaten public, and as Brito taunted, nothing can be done about it. When will such madness end? And it's talking about the business world too. Of course, we've all had the scenario where you have to get a clerk to unlock the toothpaste type thing. But there's also locally with the shoplifters at Target. Remember that, hitting the police officer. You've had so many examples of this locally, but throughout the whole state because of things like bail reform, where there are no real consequences for your action. Also, Hochul was out there not just criticizing Trump on Epstein, but she said the human toll of the big, beautiful bill is beyond unconscionable. It will utterly destabilize our health insurance program. Cuts off about $13 billion a year between New York State and our overall health care system. 1.5 million New Yorkers will be stripped of health insurance, something many of us, when we were in Congress, fought for from the Affordable Care Act. What? Was Hochul in Congress? We're in Congress fought for the Affordable Care Act. It'll be cutting essential funding for hospitals and healthcare systems, without a doubt putting lives at risk. All right, enough. Quote, oh, by the way, we didn't bring this up yesterday, and I regret it because it's a little late now. But I still think it is worth bringing up. Here we go. Andrew Cuomo. Now, you know why he ultimately resigned from governor. No, it wasn't the deaths of so many thousands of people because of his disastrous nursing home decision, putting COVID-positive patients in nursing homes. It wasn't that. There was sexual harassment allegations, accusations of him getting handsy. He is facing fresh mockery for an ad that he put out for his run for mayor. Again, Cuomo, who resigned as governor in 2021 amid a flurry of sexual harassment allegations from over a dozen women, was picked up for using this phrase. Ready? In his piece, he said he vowed to focus on touching more people. He said we would better, because he's getting a lot of criticism because he thought he was just going to get the primary, so he didn't really campaign that hard. And now they're saying, are you going to campaign this time? He said, we're going to better use with social media, reaching out to more young people and touching more people. One of the people that latched onto that wording was Lindsey Bolin, the former aide who was first to accuse Cuomo of sexual harassment. Don't touch any more people, she tweeted. We've all paid enough for your touching. Great point. And what did that end up costing us? Last I knew, it was around $70 million in legal fees for taxpayers, for you and I, to pay for his legal defense. So Lindsey Bolin saying, don't touch any more people. We've all paid enough for your touching. Who is his campaign manager? Another person added, in a sane society, Andrew Cuomo saying he's going to reach out to more young people and touch more people would be taken as a public safety emergency. Another person said, should probably avoid saying that, Andrew. So Rich Azzopardi was asked about it. And what did he do? Of course, blame the victim. She is not credible. This is about Bolin. And it's sad she continues to spread these false accusations. So if you're running his campaign, it's not like you only have one take. Couldn't you say, hey, let's cut that again? Maybe let's not say we're gonna reach out and touch more people. Do you remember why you had to resign from Governor Cuomo? All right. Enough on that. We're going to talk about the Democrats when we come back. Keep your comments coming in, and I didn't know that. So Hochul served in Congress from 2011 to 2013 and was defeated for re-election in 2012 by Chris Collins. Oh, I remember Chris Collins, of course. Oh, that's interesting. I guess I did not remember that part of her history. Did you? It hasn't come up. Maybe I do it at one time. Who knows? All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, the police officer you are talking about that got hit at Target just bought the Great Escape ice cream shop in Watkins. I think it's great he is making the most of his horrible trauma caused by a criminal. Thank you for bringing that to attention. Yes, you're exactly right. Mike Tetchi. I have trouble saying his name. I apologize. I almost had it. I've been practicing in break. But what a horrendous story. And it's just bail reform. It's just the constant looting, shoplifting. What an amazing story. I'm so glad you brought that to our attention, Mark, and best of luck to him and his family. And what a great location, the Great Escape ice cream shop in Watkins. All right, Ken writes in, Tetki. There we go. I knew I would get it. Ken writes in, at this point, I'm suspicious of anything that would have been in the Epstein files. If the deep state can scrub information permanently from the file, why can't they insert false information to the file? And I think there's a lot of people that see a red flag in this and why Trump didn't want to release it, or Bondi didn't want to release it. Because again, if there was something in there about Trump, why would that not have been released in any way, shape, or form to help Biden when he ran, or to help Kamala when she ran. Obviously, the polls showed that she was down. You don't think that would have been a perfect time to release that information? And then the Wall Street Journal reports on something today that with that autograph in that book, but they don't even have a copy of the page. It all reeks. I'm with you, Ken. Yesterday, Cory Booker, making a name for himself with that non-filibuster filibuster, threw a tantrum yesterday, joining the Democrats in a walkout from the Senate hearing on Trump's judge pick, Emil Bove. An enraged Cory Booker shouted over Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Chuck Grassley for 8 straight minutes Thursday. See, that is now the face of the resistance. He really sees an opening here. Don't think for a moment he doesn't. He's releasing a book about his filibuster that wasn't a filibuster, that resulted in absolutely no success, no measurable anything, except for he's getting a book out of it, I suppose. He's seeing this as being the face of the resistance, and him narrowing and honing in on the White House. He's had that ego since the moment he got in there. There was talks of him running way back during the Obama administration, after Obama was over. So he's loving this. So now he knows if he shouts over somebody and has this childish tantrum, just like the tantrum of 25 hours and 5 minutes, that'll get him the attention he wants, and he'll be the face of the resistance. Booker threw a fit after Grassley spurned his request to debate Bove's nomination to the Philadelphia-based Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and proceeded with a vote to report the nominee to the Senate floor after Democrats vacated the meeting room. I don't understand this, Booker raged. What are you afraid of about even debating this, putting things on the record, hearing from every senator? That's what your obligations are. There's no need to rush this. You are obligated to address a point of order according to the rules of this committee. You can overrule me by a Senate vote. You're violating your own rules. Anyway, Democrats try a new tone, according to the Washington Post. Less scripted, more cursing, Trumpier insults. And we've talked about the cursing, and Jasmine Crockett has become a star because of this, and the veiled, violent rhetoric in her language. Not so veiled, really. The Democrat National Committee's social media team kicked off its retreat earlier this year with a blunt message. People were slamming their work, which sometimes failed to connect with the party's angry voters. So the team shortened its approval process for social media posts, encouraging members not to overthink them. They used cuss words on the party's main X account. And when erstwhile Trump ally Elon Musk suggested without evidence that President Trump was entangled in the infamous Jeffrey Epstein case, the DNC gleefully piled on, release the Epstein files. Yeah. Again, Musk not as brilliant politically as he thinks he is. Every day the Trump administration, Republicans in Congress, they're doing something cruel and corrupt and absurd, and they deserve mockery, said Tim Hogan, who leads the DNC's war room. The strategy is not to have someone who needs to read a 40-page deck and calibrate before posting, but just go out and recruit people who know how to dunk. The DNC's meaner, more freewheeling social media presence is part of a broader shift underway among Democrats who want to loosen up, shake their by-the-book image, and strike a harder tone toward Trump and other Republicans. Can you imagine that Democrats believe in their mind that they never struck a hard enough tone against Trump or Republicans in general? I mean, if you go back, and I would highly encourage you, if you have the time, to read a book called Righteous Indignation by Andrew Breitbart. He has since passed, of course. But when you read it, it reminds you of some of the disgusting things that were said at the time about George W. Bush, comparing him to a Nazi like they try to do to Trump. So to suggest that they've always been by the book and really just too clean cut, I mean, Leave It to Beaver, Mayberry type stuff, Ozzie and Harriet is a little bit on the laughable side, but this is how the media shapes through bias a narrative and a perspective. Party leaders are swearing more, using edgier insults, recording more direct-to-camera videos, embracing hours-long podcast appearances, that I've noticed, and trying to project a raw authenticity that, to Democrats' frustration, many voters have come to associate with Trump. The party has struggled to compete with Trump for attention in the first months of his second term, and Democrats disagree about how best to retool and fix their record-low polling numbers. But there is growing consensus that shifting away from a cautious and carefully scripted image is crucial. I would say when it comes to carefully scripted, there are definitely scripts. We saw it with Pelosi being caught red-handed saying that the Epstein was a distraction, and then an hour later saying, never mind, I didn't read my memo this morning, what we're supposed to say. But have you ever thought of them as being non-insulting, non-aggressive in their tone? Senator Chris Murphy said, in wake of Trump, it's really important for us to understand that authenticity is a coin of the realm, that voters could smell insincerity more acutely than ever before. They know when you are using talking points or poll-tested language, they expect you to make mistakes. Some Democrats, and remember, there was a whole conference on this in Washington. Some Democrats are drawing lessons from Zoran Mamdani's recent upset victory in the Democrat primary for New York mayor, impressed with a social media-heavy, plain-spoken communication strategy that bested the conventional button-up campaign of former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, I've always thought that Andrew Cuomo's tone was just too soft. He was too weak. He wasn't aggressive enough. I mean, this is all nonsense. Andrew Cuomo was so boisterous, so in your face. That was what he was known for. That's why he scared fellow Democrats when he was in office. Mamdani also ventured into unfriendly spaces Democrats often shied away from, including a podcast hosted by former NYPD officers who acknowledged their conservative-leaning audience would balk at the self-described Democrat socialist. Plenty of frustrated Democrats say party leaders are not adapting fast enough. Activists and liberal comedians mocked Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer for promoting a very strong letter to Trump after his crackdown on Harvard University. Other Democrat efforts to strike a tougher tone have at times made voters cringe. When House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries posted a solemn picture of himself holding a baseball bat, saying Democrats would keep the pressure on Trump's legislative agenda, some mocked it as corny, very corny. Taking a baseball bat, I mean, they were trying, but that's what Cory Booker's trying to do as well. I mean, they're trying to look more aggressive because they believe that will score them some points, but it comes off phony. Cory Booker comes off phony. Hakeem Jeffries, every time he's done it. Chuck Schumer hasn't even really tried to do it, let's be honest. Those most successful in breaking through with bigger audiences have tended to speak off the cuff and venture into non-political settings. A handful of Democrats have spent years building loyal followings with a more spontaneous style, like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who was on live and social media, and we know throughout the years. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said the Democrats' desperate attempt to match the president's winning style is like watching a fake reject cover band's sad and pathetic off-key performance that will never get the attention it desperately wants. That's a good way to put it. But they're trying. Representative Robert Garcia said that we deserve to be mean. We're not going to go through every single example of this, but Ken Martin, the DNC chairman, exemplifies the shift. Before he was elected chair, the Minnesota native mostly used only the mildest swear words. He said the government should, and I'm not going to use the words. Now he's getting into really cussing territory. This poor Ken Martin, he can't win for losing. He tries so hard. He's Johnny Tryhard because he was literally crying on a phone call because David Hogg was getting more attention than him. That's not good. David Hogg would be the leader of the DNC that this article would be calling for. Someone that's more aggressive, someone that's more off the cuff, speaks his mind, says some pretty nasty things. Not Ken Martin. Ken Martin, by the way, said that you have to open up the tent. They have a big tent in the Democrat Party, so they're willing to take in an anti-Semitic Democrat, someone who has not denounced anti-Semitic rhetoric, into their big tent. Keep that in mind. Too many people view the Democrat Party as weak and inauthentic. More Democrats are also embracing the kind of freewheeling podcast that Trump appeared on last year, eager to prove they can go beyond talking points. I've got to say, I've noticed a lot of that, and it doesn't always go well. I think I might even have a couple of examples of that a little bit later on. But we do have to, just your thoughts on that. Democrats try a new tone, less scripted, more cursing. We've got a couple other things about the Democrats when we come back. Stay with us. Not on Frankly Speaking. We're never scripted. Never cursing. And I don't know about the Trumpier insults. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. We're so glad that you joined us on this beautiful Friday morning edition of Frankly Speaking. Democrat lawmaker Elise Slotkin from Michigan called out the Democrat Party in an interview for being too scared to offend immigration groups as they navigate the issue. The Republicans are fomenting anti-immigrant hate as a policy and strategy. And Democrats are so scared of offending either immigration groups or people to the left of them. Maybe they're in a primary. They're concerned about saying, no, not everyone gets to be here. Not everyone has the right to live in the United States. And we, like every other country in the world, get to know who and what is coming across our borders. That kind of clamping down with rules tends to make a lot of my Democrat colleagues really nervous. There's been a lot of ink spilled about advocacy groups that don't seem to represent a lot of voters. We saw that in real time this last election, when no one had a bigger swing toward Trump than Latinos. Some of these groups were trotting around Washington saying they represent the immigration community, or the immigrant community, and they clearly were not. She also said she thought Democrats had lost their alpha energy. Yeah, remember the alpha energy was Tim Walz? That was going to be the alpha male, that Tim Walz, that he was, it's hard to remember his name. He ran for vice president with Kamala Harris. He was the ultimate man's man. Remember, he was hunted, but then they showed him shooting. It was very awkward. It didn't work. He didn't know how to load his gun. And then he was a football player or something, but it turned out he was an assistant. I don't know. The Michigan senator said alpha energy was about emotion. We respond to people's pain with a long list of wonky policies. Alpha energy is synonymous with being bold. Call the tough play, take a risk, be bold, and don't be so scared of your own shadow. Also, speaking of Tim Walz, he said Democrats lose voters by seemingly being opposed to successful people. We as Democrats, we want people to pay their fair share. But why are we against people being successful like that? We can't be. Why are we against? We should talk about business. Not all business exploit their workers, and we get ourselves stuck in that. And I think we lose them. And he said, not knowing how insulting that is. Oh, and let me take a step back. Walz and Harrison was the host, also talked about what occurred with young black voters in 2024, citing a discussion Walz had with Governor Wes Moore, who said a lot of good-hearted politicians go into black communities and talk about restoring voting rights to felons. And he said, not knowing how insulting that is for these young men to say, look, I'm just looking for capital because I'm an entrepreneur. I got my JD from Georgetown, and I'd like to kind of do this. I'm thinking about starting this, where you're missing the point about why are we narrowing it about prison reform? Good point. Look, Walz said, look, the business community is finding out right now how bad a businessman Donald Trump is. Cussing on the economy, I'm not going to say the word. Tariffs back and forth, threatening businesses. Anyway. The alpha male, Tim Walz. Good to hear he's doing well. One other thing before we go to break, and we're going to wrap up. We have one of the break after that, but we're going to wrap up today's discussion. But I want to leave this segment on this note and get your thoughts on it before we go to break. RFK Jr. is reportedly considering another presidential run. An event held by his super PAC has people talking. Yes, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. may give it another run in 2028. Your thoughts? Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A lot of great comments coming in. All right, let's get to one. Rick writes in. Here we go. Rick had a little back and forth yesterday. He says, good morning, Frank, and I say good morning, Rick. Pam Bondi is going to visit Alcatraz Thursday, scoping it out as Trump is looking for a West Coast retirement home. Old Donald is hot on Powell. I'm quite sure Powell isn't committing fraud with the reconstruction project that the Fed is now undertaking. Hey, you never know. Look who appointed him. Just kidding, Mr. Powell. To the viewer who commented about me not knowing Trump was supplying weapons to Ukraine via NATO and something about his head was made of rocks or something like that. That isn't what I said. Trump is supplying weapons but doesn't want anything long range fired at Moscow. I say, why not? Are Donald and Putin still conversing? There isn't anything in Ukraine that Russia won't flatten. Nice shot, Netanyahu shooting at Gaza today, blasts the only Catholic church in Gaza. He said he's sorry, it was a mistake. Every day a new mistake. I think the biggest mistake is called Netanyahu. All kidding aside, I hope Trump gets through this medical issue. I don't kid around on medical stuff. Seen a lot happen to close people to me over the years. Just saying. And Wall Street Journal has a copy of a love letter between Donald and Epstein, so they say. Donald says release all pertinent documents. That means everything that doesn't have his name on it. You guys don't think he was in on anything, do you? Now he has to hide the data as long as he can install. Enjoy it. Can't wait till Monday. Rick. Question for you, Rick. Serious question. First of all, yes, the medical issue is serious. The Wall Street Journal doesn't have a copy, but they won't show the copy. It sounds like it was through hearsay, right? Or what would be described to them, which I think is poor reporting, if I understand that correctly. They definitely haven't shown it to the Trump administration. But if Donald Trump is all over this or in it at all, why wasn't it released during the Biden administration? That's a very serious question. I'm not asking any kind of gotcha thing. Since you have obviously a different opinion than many people in this audience, why has it not been released before? If this could have brought down Trump, maybe even before he won the first time. But definitely the gap in between Biden, when Biden gave it to Kamala Harris wouldn't release it. I don't understand that. I don't get the reasoning there. Hey, I think some viewers will find this interesting. A Donald Trump Jr. backed online gun retailer went public on the New York Stock Exchange yesterday, and the president's son spoke about it. Trump Jr., along with his business partner Omid Malik, helped take Grab a Gun public on Wednesday. Oh, it was Wednesday. Okay. In a move Trump's son said symbolizes the repudiation of anti-gun woke policies that have gained a foothold over the last few years. Quote, I think it's important. It's what we've talked about for a long time, allowing these great American companies to have the same chance as others that have perhaps been a little bit more politically correct. So to come back as a former New Yorker, a political refugee to the free state of Florida, coming back to the People's Republic and taking a gun company public is like a sort of a great vindication of so much of what we believe in, which is ensuring the sort of democratization of finance and capitalism, across sectors in this country that many Americans care about and have for decades, but perhaps didn't have the ability to get that sort of equal treatment. Now, Grab a Gun, which sells ammunition and firearms accessories on its website, went public through a merger with a special acquisition company, or SPAC, named Columbia Acquisition Corp. There you go. I had not heard about that, and I wanted to mention it. Okay, back to what Rick had said about Jerome Powell, that is gaining heat. I've got to say, whatever you think of Jerome Powell, I know there's mixed emotions. A lot of people on the Trump side do not like him, do not like the decisions he's making. But how do you defend $2.5 billion for the Federal Reserve renovation? It's not a Vegas casino. He says they're being good stewards of public resources. We are taking seriously the responsibility to be good stewards of public resources. We have taken great care to ensure the project is carefully overseen since it was first approved by the board in 2017. Powell claimed in a letter to White House Director of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, even though the project is already about $600 million over budget, but that $600 million in the scheme of Washington is probably being a good steward of public resources. What's $600 million over budget? Powell has faced a firestorm of criticism over the lavish renovation, as Trump demands that Powell consider resigning after refusing to lower interest rates. The renovation project has given Trump and his allies a way to pressure Powell to either relax interest rates or resign under the weight of multiple investigations. Think of that, though. I don't know how you defend $2.5 billion, but even the $600 million that they went over budget by saying that we take seriously the responsibility to be good stewards of public resources. My goodness, I don't know. I just don't know. $2.5 billion. Well, again, like I said, $600 million over budget, probably not that bad in Washington. Isn't that sad? All right, we're going to read your last second questions, comments, concerns, whatever they may be, when we come back. So stay with us, wrapping up today's edition of Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So many comments. This may be the way we wrap up the show. There's that many comments. Let's get right to that. The comment section of our program brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Put up their graphic there on the screen. All right, first up, Mama Donnie does not see a need for prisons because communists put criminals in work camps or execute them. That is historically what communists do. Yes, Mama Donnie saying he does not see a need for prisons. Could you imagine New York City? And look how bad it is now with prisons. My goodness. Comment from a different viewer, and this was in reference to RFK Jr. thinking he may run. Well, they're thinking he may run for president. If RFK Jr. decides to run, he's really got to decide what party. If he runs with the Democrats, I don't think he has a snowball's chance. I kind of like to see him run for Republican office first, then down the road, maybe if he stays with the Republican Party, perhaps a VP run. I don't think it's time for him to try for president, especially as a Democrat, because the track record of Kennedy's is dangerous. I think it'd be a different story if his voice hadn't been messed up by that parasite. Yeah, that's a fair point. This person asks, Rick, if Trump gave Ukraine long-range missiles, wouldn't that start World War III? It's interesting you say that because the chairman of I got more comments in a second. The chairman of Russia's Security Council called on Moscow to be ready to strike the West if it escalates the war in Ukraine. Now, this could be all bluster. Don't think differently. Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's former president and top ally of Vladimir Putin, warned that Russia would be ready to respond in full should the West get further involved in the conflict that has raged for more than 3 years. We need to act accordingly to respond in full and, if necessary, launch preemptive strikes, Medvedev said. He told the state-owned TASS outlet he claimed that many in the West have treachery in their blood. As he called for Russia to be prepared for war with the West, he also dismissed fears from NATO nations and Eastern Europe who worry that they'll be next on the chopping block should Moscow complete its goal of conquering Ukraine. Anyway, comments from another viewer. Great point. If there is something there, the Democrats certainly, this was the Epstein files. If there is something there, the Democrats certainly should have brought it out during the Biden disaster. But hey, you never know. Look at old Stormy Daniels' story. Yeah. Oh, well, with old Stormy. Yeah, okay. I do think. I mean, wouldn't they have brought it out? That's what I don't understand about it. I think there's a lot of different conspiracy theories on it of why it's never been released. Not with just Donald. So I didn't realize that was you responding, Rick, but I appreciate it. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Have a relaxing weekend. Well, thank you. You have a relaxing weekend too. And finally, listen to this one. Good morning, Frank. Have a great weekend. So I'm going to have a great and relaxing weekend. I hope everybody has a great and relaxing weekend as well. I appreciate all the comments this morning. We had a lot of fun. One last thing, if you have a chance, we're not going to have a chance to get to it, unfortunately, but Mike Pompeo has a op-ed out this morning, how Trump can mold the new Middle East in his own deal-making image. If America and Israel stay the course, this is Mike Pompeo, I'm optimistic that we're within striking distance of delivering what once seemed an impossible goal, lasting peace and prosperity to the Middle East. All right. Thank you for all the comments. Congratulations to our winner of the tickets for Bubbly and Brunch, which is Sunday, July 27th, 11 a.m. till 2 at Pleasant Valley Wine Company. That's with our friends at Steuben Senior Services Fund. They have that online auction going on now to benefit the Steuben Senior Services Fund. So we appreciate them being on the program this morning, as always. Going to have a busy week next week. I hope that you'll join us next week and every single day next week because we're going to be busy. That does it. We'll see you on Monday morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you bright and early Monday morning. I look forward to it already. Have a great weekend, a fun and happy and relaxing weekend like everyone else was wishing me. Thank you.